Again. Welcome to another episode at Evolve With Me podcast. This is your ultimate digital mentorship where intersection of faith and life meet. I am your host and I'm excited to have you join me on another incredible journey. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about navigating generational differences in financial management. That's right. Another topic about finance. I really feel like God is pressing into our finances and preparing us for something greater. Today we're going to talk about how to navigate through generations and how to be able to communicate to the younger generation about finances. So the first thing I'm going to do is define what our generations look like and define where our generations are at this time. So let's look at the baby boomers. We know that baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964. We know we have a Generation X that was born between 1965 and 1980. We know that millennials are born between 1981 and 1996. And finally, we know that a Gen Z is born between 1997 and 2012. Imagine, we're in 2023. We're missing generations right now in this list. That's how far we've come. We have come so far in technology and in generations that communication also has to enhance as we come along further in this world, in this society. Each generation has a unique experiences that shapes their outlook on the finances. We know that baby boomers, when they were growing up during a time of economic prosperity, and there was a lot of job stability that was leading them to value the job security they had and their financial stability. We know that around the time of Gen X, when they witnessed an economic downturn, they also witnessed corporate downsizing that was leading them to value self-sufficiency and financial independency. And we have our generation millennials who entered into the workforce during a great recession. Can you believe that? That around that time, between 81 and 96, we were at a great recession. And that led people to prioritize their job fulfillments and work-life balance. Then we had Gen Z that was starting their careers and had more entrepreneur mindset and were valuing more the flexibility and the innovation. And in this generation now, we can see that. We can see how much they value the flexibility and the innovation that they have, and they want to be able to expand that out into the world. Their innovation in this generation has caused that to be their voice. And they really are passionate about voicing that and having the flexibility in their life to do that. So how do these values differ? And how do their experiences are manifesting in the financial management right now? Well, baby boomers, they tend to prioritize in saving and investing and traditional assets like stocks and bonds. It's so interesting that when I hear that about the baby boomer generation, I see that happening now, even with the innovators, with the entrepreneur mindsets, that they're actually tapping into the assets of the stocks and bonds, and they're actually thinking about savings and investments. They are actually finding out the nooks and the crannies of how these things work, and it's so I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see that this generation of 2023 is saying, hey, we know how this works, and we are looking to prioritize our life so that we can be the ones to utilize this asset in our life. So now we look at Gen X, and they tend to invest in real estate and prioritize paying off debt. It's insane, because I am a Gen X, and it's so funny because I'm Gen X, but I lived in the millennial state. So when I look at my life, I think now how much I am so passionate about real estate. Love real estate. I love homes. I love property. I love the land. I just see so much potential in it. And then I think even moving now about like, stay out of debt. Be debt free, because you don't want to be a slave to debt. And that's a biblical stand. We don't want to be a slave to the lender. We are called to be the lender. And so I look at that and I think about my life, and I'm like, wow, that's interesting how they pinpointed that. And so now we look at the millennials, and they prioritize in saving for retirement and investing in a social responsible companies. That I have not heard much talk about, especially coming from 1981 to a 1996 baby. I have not seen that generation talk about the retirement and investing in social responsibility of companies. And I want to see more of that, and even start to look for those who are involved in that from that generation, and maybe even be able to bring them on the podcast so we can dialogue more about this part of the generation, and what they think, and what was causing them to be passionate about that. Finally, we're looking at Gen Zs, and they tend to have a more hands-on approach on investing, and they prioritize on financial education. Yeah, these two, between the millennials and the Gen Zs, I would love to hear more of that. If you are listening to this podcast, make sure to send me an email so that we can do a one-on-one interview on this and get some insight on that. So the generational differences may be a great significant, because we can obviously see that they are all carrying a different mindset, and yet still are mixed up with each other. Because even in a conversation about any of this stuff, you'll still hear a little bit of each one in a generation. But it's very essential to remember that there's no right way to manage finances. Like, everyone has their advice of how it worked for them, and they can try to give you some pointers. But at the end of the day, when it comes to finances, we have to build something that's according to your lifestyle. We have to build it on your platform. And that is how we manage finances. We manage finance by looking at your story. And I think that often when we think about finances, people think, oh my gosh, there's a right way to do it. There is a healthy way to manage your finances. Absolutely. But I cannot say that what's right for you is right for someone else, because everyone's story is different. Everyone's life is different, and we have to build according to that lifestyle. So it's important to recognize the difference to facilitate a communication and understanding about that. When we're getting ready to talk about finances, and I'm so excited to even talk about in our next episode on how to talk to teens about finances and start to get them to understand it, because this is a good time right now to grab your 14-year-old, your 13-year-olds, even your 10-year-olds, and begin to teach them in the ways of money, so that when they grow up as an adult, they have the concept of what is good to be applied when it comes to their financial status. So it's important to learn the communication. It's important to learn an understanding of how to communicate so we can bridge the gap. So how can we bridge the gap? How can we bridge the gap within each generation? Well, first, it's obviously crucial to know that the very first thing we have to have is be open. Have an open heart. I just stated before that it is no right way to to address finances, we have to look at the story of the person. So when we're coming to bridge gaps in communication when it comes to finances, we have to have an open heart and an open mind, because we're getting ready to come to the table with one another about things that we know and things that we need to know, things we need to dialogue. And the second thing is to be honest in communication, in the communication system about the finances with your friends, your family, your colleagues. You have to be honest and you have to be open-minded. So coming to the table with someone to discuss the finances, you're not going to always go to the table and say it's always been perfect. Absolutely incorrect. A lot of the people who have gotten into the finance industry have gotten here because they have made mistakes that has cost them something. And when you know that the price was high, you will grow in a passion to make sure that that price doesn't get paid again. And that is what we're here for. Even as parents, we're the ones that are coming to crush that so that our children do not have to live it. And we have to look forward to living a life where we're crushing it so that they can live in a better way. So all the things that we have learned, we are learning by experience, but we're also coming in and saying, hey, we've tried that and it didn't work, but we tried it this way and it worked. And so coming with an honest, open heart and talking to people about the financial industry is very important. That's your first step. When you're sharing your financial goals and values, we can all better have an understanding with each other on our perceptions. So again, my perception might be a different way. I know it's going to be a different way, and your perception might be another way. But in our perceptions, we can all find a way. You might be able to add an addition to my perception as well as I can add an addition to yours. So it's so good to be able to keep that in mind when we're coming to the table to talk about finances. A second thing we can learn from each other is that, baby boomers can teach a younger generation about the value of a long-term investment and the importance of diversification. Gen X can share their experience with debt management and real estate investment. We have. I just gonna go back really quick to that baby boomer moment because I'm looking at the fact that I don't think I ever really was interested in a long-term investment, or even thinking about the importance of that diversity. I think that I've tend to not want to hear about long term, and always, even in stocks and in bonds, it's a long term investment. You can't just put your money in and they're thinking it's going to grow overnight unless you know exactly where to hit it. Most oftentimes people are like, you got to be invested for the long term. You just can't come in here for a wham bam. You got to get in and know that it's going to take some time to grow your money. And so I think that I just talked to myself on that note, and I'm going to think about a long-term investment and look at the opportunities that can be found in so many different ways. So that's a good insight. I just never really thought about that. And so Gen X, that's me. I want to help you get out of your debt. I really dislike debt. I feel like that debt arena is there to keep people paying higher interest and keep them in places where they're paying double the money for something that they could have just not and just had a better lifestyle, especially in their credit, and they would have been able to pay just as low as anyone else that had a good standing credit. And real estate investment, my goodness, passionate about this. I think a lot of people are coming up and they're starting to be passionate. It's so interesting. Like I said, you're talking about a generation of Gen X we're going back into timeline of 1965 to 1980, and now these children that are younger in their 20s or whatever, and they're now becoming passionate and seeing the value of investing in real estate and how it can help them. And it's wow, this is really starting to really mix in. And so just don't think that any one of us in any generation doesn't have anything to bring. We all do. So the millenniums, they can teach the older generations about the benefits of socially responsibility of investing. So they're really into that social responsibility. And the Gen Z can teach about, the latest, I don't know, fine tech tools or technologies that are out there, which there's so many apps, guys. There's like, technology has skyrocketed, and there's so many apps out there, and there's so many platforms. It's like, what's the best thing that I don't have to go all the way around the world to find it, and how much can I save money using these apps or anything in technology, really, even these tools, because we are such in a generation that's digital that we are always looking for something better. So that's good. We want to seek out a Gen Z, maybe even, I don't even know what comes up after Gen Z. I gotta look that up now. Anyhow, finally, recognize the essentials that each individual has a unique experience and value in. Just recognize the essentials of each individual with their unique experience and values, because not everyone is going to fit neatly in any generational stereotype. So by recognizing and celebrating the differences, we can build stronger and be more inclusive in financial communities. Well, I hope that this little piece of nugget helps you out today in helping you navigate into generational differences in financial management. We are going to discuss more on finances and insight and information. And yeah, I hope that you have subscribed so that you can catch the next podcast. Well, I hope that you found this discussion insightful, informational, and again, let's keep evolving. Well, hello. Did you know that we have a group called the Reformation Tribe, and we do our discipleship in deeper in depth. We are actually gathering once a month to be able to plow and be on fire for God and just be around a group of people that are like-minded. If you have not, then find us on Facebook. I will add the link into the description of this podcast.